I feel rejuvenated.
It is really powerful. It's one of those things that's really hard to explain. I always say people have to try it to really experience the magic. So it isn't about always being in a state of happiness or joy. It's about allowing our emotions to move and to flow. And that's what breathwork does. By switching off the mind, we're connecting to the energy within our body and our spirit. And when we can allow those emotions and that energy to move through us, that blockage moves and it eases. What we realise then is there's more peace and joy on the other side. When we open the heart, we're opening ourselves to more love.
Hi EnvisionAirs, welcome to the Envision Air podcast. This is the podcast where we envision living our best lives by exploring everyday topics related to health, wealth, and community. On today's episode, we have the lovely Laura Uglow, who is a breathwork facilitator, meditation teacher, intuitive healer and guide, as well as a mother of three and a writer. She helps guide those who are on their healing path of self-discovery and has over 20 years in the wellness and health space. Today, Laura will be speaking with us about the healing power of breathwork, form of therapy that so many report has helped in the healing of their minds and bodies from past traumas, reducing stress and helping with their anxiety, depression, and even substance abuse, as well as being able to shift our brain waves from beta to alpha and even theta. All very, very interesting. So I'm very, very excited to welcome Laura on the podcast, the Envision Air podcast. So welcome, Laura.
Hi, Nicole. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. We're the ones who are grateful to have you on to talk about this really interesting topic. I've already touched a little bit about your background, but I would love to know how you started in the fitness and wellness space over 20 years ago. And also, what was your journey into breathwork?
Okay, so as you said, I started in the wellness space. It was over 20 years ago now. I began as a personal trainer and nutritionist and Pilates teacher, and just really fascinated always by the different ways that we can improve our health and our well-being. And so obviously I was very much focused on the nutrition side and the physical body. And yeah, it was incredible. I learned so much, worked with many, many women on that path. And what I found as I worked within that industry, I love learning, as you know, just learning new tools to kind of help my clients. And I went through an incredibly difficult time in my life, a few years into this kind of health and wellness journey. I experienced grief and burnout and just a string of a few things really that happened. And what I began to learn was that the physical and the emotional body we have to take care of both. See, as a personal trainer, I was really taking care of my physical body and a vessel which supports me through life, which is incredibly important. But in going through all of these challenges, I was really, really struggling inside, and I was feeling exhausted and anxious and burnt out. And I guess, life happens and our stress bucket, it fills up. And when we go through these bigger experiences, when we lose someone we love, or we, start to struggle with our own health, it kind of increases the stress bucket. So we kind of feel, we can feel more anxious and more overwhelmed. And I started to become more and more fascinated by how I could release that load and work with that load, because I guess in many ways we live in a society where so often we're encouraged, if we're struggling, to wear our mask and pretend we're okay, or we don't feel safe to say, look, I'm actually really struggling here. And we hold everything inside, and just it's quite destructive in many ways for our emotional well-being, for our mental health. And yeah, I guess therein began my journey of exploring more ways in which we can look after our emotional well-being, and really
Yeah.
tending to our inner world and meeting ourselves with compassion
Mm-hmm.
and more self-love, so that we don't have to keep everything inside, and know that actually there is safe spaces where we can talk about grief, where we can talk about even
Mm-hmm.
just day-to-day things that we may be going through or really really struggling with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Was that,
yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, and that's really ultimately where the next part of my journey began. And yeah, fascinating.
Well,
But
was there anything in particular that, was there an event or some situation that you faced that really was like a turning point that you can remember, that really, because
yeah,
obviously I think being a physical, like a PT and taking care of your own body, I definitely know that whenever I work out and I'm doing really good hard workouts, it can be good for stress and you can get some release in that way. But I think what you're talking about is like the emotional stuff, the serious stuff, the traumas, the loss and so on, that can really, maybe going to the gym and doing like a 10K run might not help with. And so, yeah, was there anything specific in your life that really was like, I need more on this?
there was a few things. So I was on a path, I guess, that many women and men actually are on, which is getting caught up in. So this is the first layer, is the busyness of our lives and the
Mm-hmm.
need to keep going and keep doing and keeping up with everyone else, and not wanting to let this person down, pleasing this person, working really long hours. So all of this, really just trying to keep up with the fast pace of the world, which I now know didn't work well for me, was quite depleting for my nervous system. It was kind of creating an imbalance in my stress hormones, which made me feel more anxious. It was a period over a few years where I guess there were signs before, but my body was just slowly struggling, and there was more headaches, more IBS. My body's way of saying, look, can you listen? We need to slow down
Mm-hmm.
here. We need to rest more.
Mm-hmm.
Please listen to me. And
Wow.
so that was very much, I guess, a part of the journey. And then
Mm-hmm.
what happened was, my younger brother Daniel died suddenly of a cardiac heart
Oh,
condition
I'm
that
so
we
sorry.
didn't know that he had. And I
Oh,
guess
okay.
that it was in that moment where my world literally just fell apart.
Yeah.
And I guess
I'm so
anyone
sorry.
who's experienced grief in that way, there's life before and then there's life after, and kind of your world as you know it just changes. And
Yeah.
I
Oh
guess
my
from that
gosh.
point I realized that actually I can't keep living this way anymore. That it
Mhm.
was it was the thing, I guess, which was the major tipping point, for me
Yeah.
to actually be really struggling, but also to finally make the changes that I needed to make in my world to feel better
Mm.
again and to get my life back on track. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult, and it was nearly nine
Mhm.
years ago now, which is
Oh,
hard to
yeah.
imagine. Really, it's been that long, but
I'm sorry.
thank you.
No, I know. And I think that the kind of the immediate loss and like the unexpected aspect of it must have been really traumatic and really
Yeah,
difficult.
it was. And it's, yeah, just that moment where you get that phone call and everything in that moment changes, and there's nothing that can prepare you for that
No.
moment ever.
Yeah.
Just,
Hmm.
and I guess there was this period of about a couple of months afterwards where it's almost like it was socially acceptable to cry or to show my emotions, and I hid away. And then you get to a point where actually life carries on and people expect you to carry on, and just life does continue. So, but 2 months after, you've lost your sibling, you don't feel normal, but you just put on your mask and you get on with your life. So in many ways, then you start to push down how you're feeling, and the grief gets a little bit more squashed. But what I realized in doing that on my own journey, by suppressing my grief, by not talking about it as much as I needed to, there was further health concerns that actually came with that. So I started to experience more health anxiety and deeper fatigue, I guess, as a result.
Yeah. Well, that was like you said, like your body was telling you that something isn't right. And I think you're very intuitive with your own body. I think we probably all are. We have the ability to do so, but you obviously it was coming to the forefront for you. Is that when you started saying to yourself, look, I need to start, like, were you self-aware, or were there other people telling you, like, you need to, because the reason I'm asking is when with my loss of my father, I also went inward, very inward, and I felt very emotionally fragile. It's probably one of the only times in my whole life I felt very, very emotionally fragile. And I felt like I almost had to protect myself from even like banter and people, like I couldn't even be around that in any way. So I totally went inward for a few months. But then I realized I was taking a lot of my grief out on my husband, and then we were like newlyweds at the time, and I was like, okay. But I was actually like very aware. I was like, oh, I need to get help because this isn't good and this is going to strain my marriage. So I actually started getting some grief counseling at that time. But for me, that was a good outward element. But for you, I'm curious, like, what did you start doing? How did you start exploring those other emotional avenues?
Yeah, what happened was, I can literally remember it was about 2 years after, and I was already on a healing journey. I was doing Reiki and various different healing. I'd had some talk therapy. I'd had some, like I said, lots of Reiki and, different acupuncture and treatments. But it was this element of this underlying anxiety, and it was almost like a fear of life, a fear of like what else might happen that's bad, just what, almost on edge. Yeah, it was almost 2 years to the day after he died, and just, okay, I'm not living like this anymore. And I went on a yoga retreat in Ibiza, which was an incredible experience. And within that retreat, I found breathwork.
Oh, wow.
This is, so that was quite a few years ago now. That breathwork session literally just changed my grief, because within that small group session that I did, I was able to release how I was feelings that I didn't know were there.
Wow.
Lots of tears and sadness and just things, I guess, that I'd held in. And after that session, just the relief that I felt that I'd been able to express that, but also within my body, it's just being able to let go of stuff that I'd been holding on to for so long. It was incredible. After that retreat, obviously I was, very sold into the power of breathwork.
So how did you feel after that? Like, how did you feel after the retreat and you'd kind of let go of some of the trauma, the loss, the grief, the feelings, all of those stuff that you mentioned? How did you feel? Like, did you feel free, or did you feel like lighter? How did you feel?
I felt much lighter in a way. I felt more connected to myself. It felt liberating, the fact that I was connected to my emotions again. It was like, that's how I'm feeling. That's what I need. It kind of gave me a deeper understanding of myself, because when we're pushing our feelings down, we're kind of creating a disconnect between how we feel and what we're really doing in the world. And so when we connect with how we feel and we begin to understand and we connect with our true self, it just creates this gorgeous connection to our heart. That in itself is quite liberating, but it's also brings a lot more clarity and direction. And I guess from that moment, I had a taster of how I could feel. I knew there was more work that needed to be done. So in many ways, I'd been on a healing journey, but that's when it really, really began. I guess ended up on a little bit more of a spiritual healing path at that point.
Yeah. Is this like a common feeling that a lot of people report, or is it very different results and feelings that people come away with after doing some breath work?
So when they do a breathwork session, there's many different feelings that people can experience, and it really depends on each individual person, but a range of feelings that you may feel during a session. You may, there's the obvious one of just releasing sadness. There's also, being able to express and feel all emotions. Alongside sadness, we might feel a sense of overwhelming love. We might feel more connection. We might feel more joy. We might feel more peace. And within all of that, there is a deeper sense of freedom, inner freedom as well, to inner freedom. But also when we're creating that connection with our own emotions and really giving ourselves permission to feel them, we're just able to kind of connect with life a little bit more deeply. The energy within our body flows more freely. It connects us to our intuition, because breathwork is a very heart opening practice. So whatever's in your heart that needs to be expressed is what will come through. And every session can be really different as well. But if you're feeling anxious or grief, or just going through any challenging time in life, then breathwork is a really incredible tool to support you to release that excess energy from your nervous system, to bring you into a deeper balance.
Wow. Okay, Laura, you sold me on the breath work and how I need to do it.
Yeah, it's
but let's yeah, no, you really have. You sold me on how good it is. And I'd love to talk a bit more in depth about breath work itself. Maybe can you give us a little bit more of a deeper dive into what it is and maybe where it started, and because I've been reading a little bit about it, and it feels like there's different ways of doing breath work. And so maybe you can explain, the technique that you use.
There is so many different tools of different styles of breath work. There is, and the type that I use, I guess, which we'll focus on today, is something called transformational breath work, or you can call it conscious connected breath work. And it's a form of meditation. And within meditation, I guess we use either the voice or different tools to switch off the mind, to bring us into a deeper sense of peace within ourselves. And within transformational breathwork, we're using the breath, and what the breath does by focusing on the pranayama, the breath technique that I use in our sessions, it allows us to switch off our mind and allow our mind just to rest from all the rushing of the thoughts. And it allows us then to, when the mind is resting, we can drop into more of our soul, our heart, and really get underneath the layers of what's going on for us, which is so beautiful. Because I guess when I spoke at the beginning about being stuck in doing mode, I was very disconnected to what I needed or what I wanted, what my dreams were, what really lit me up and brought me joy, what I enjoyed doing, how I felt. And breathwork, by allowing myself just to be and to connect more deeply to myself, it's allowed me to access so much within myself. So the breath itself allows you to go much deeper into your emotional body. So we're using what we call a 3-stage pranayama, the active breath, which is the main chunk of the session. It sounds a long time, but in an online session it would be 25 to 30 minutes, but I do shorter kind of guided ones as well. It's a mouth breathing, and we do an inhale into the abdomen, the high chest, and then we exhale and we let go and release. And by breathing in this way, by switching off the mind, we're connecting to the energy within our body and our spirit, and we can shift and move energy within the body. So when I talk about energy, I'm talking about shifting maybe energetic blocks, which might be grief, it might be some stresses that we have going on in our life, or some difficulties, and when we can allow those emotions and that energy to move through us, that blockage kind of moves and it eases. And what we realize then is there's more peace and joy on the other side. So it isn't about always being in a state of happiness or joy. It's about allowing our emotions to move and to flow. And that's what breathwork does. It kind of, we're moving energy.
Interesting.
There's different styles even within conscious connected breathwork, transformational breathwork. There's different styles, but the one that I'm teaching, it's 3 stages. We're shifting, we use this breath to bring the energy and move the energy within the body up to the heart. We expand the heart and then we let it go through the mouth. So it is really powerful. And it's one of those things that's really hard to explain. I always say people have to sort of try it to really kind of experience the magic, because everyone's experience is so different.
Yeah. Wow. And I think you've mentioned to me that normally you do it lying down. Is that right?
So people will, so the structure, the way I would do a session is I do them in person, online, or one-to-one and groups, and people would be lying down, and there's always a little introductory like grounding meditation just to kind of welcome people into the session, get them to begin to relax. And then the breath practice itself is, like I said, 25 to 30 minutes. And the bit I love is that I always do it to a playlist that I put together myself. So music is a really, really important part of the breathwork journey. When I'm organizing a session, it might be breathwork for gratitude, breathwork for releasing anxiety, and so the music is always tailored towards. So actually it's a really lovely experience, breathing to some gorgeous songs, and that's the work. And then you come into like a deeper relaxation at the end, which is normally sort of 8 to 10 minutes. And actually that's a really lovely part of the session as well, because by that stage your body is just in such a beautiful relaxed state most of the time, and you can really begin to connect with, often what happens in that stage is you might get clarity on certain things in your life. It might be things for your healing journey, it might be for work, it might be connected to your purpose in life, it might be any messages, but as well as releasing emotions, you can really connect to your intuition as well and get more clarity and wisdom. I never understood really until I did breathwork kind of how to connect with the intuition, but it just does, and you realize, that's why I do that. Or suddenly you get a realization of something that you really enjoy in life, and you can follow that then. So it's really beautiful.
Wow. And does the state that you come out of and you're in, where you're connected to intuition and you're connected to yourself, does that tend to continue on? Like, does it have like a lasting effect, or is it something that you try and regularly try and upkeep? How does that, what do you think about that?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it, the effects of the session do last for a few days afterwards. And to be honest, then you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, because you might have a release of something and then that guides you until you do another session. But I guess it takes a while to, for me now, I guess it's part of how I live. And now I live from this intuitive place, because it's just part of what I do. But it doesn't have to be the longer sessions either. I think I was saying to you just before we began, I literally just put on a song and I prepped for our podcast by just doing a few minutes of breath work. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can always just start small, and you don't need to do it daily either. It just, it can just be just making a little bit of time sometimes for yourself, to be with yourself, to meet yourself with compassion, and just, it's like a little self-connection, self-inquiry.
I love that.
If you're feeling anxious, it's easy just to push it down, but like often what I'll do now, I'm feeling anxious, so actually what do I need? I'm going to do a few minutes of breath work, and sometimes it will release it, sometimes I'll realize why I am anxious, so then we can take action to improve how we feel, if that makes sense. So
yeah, definitely. Well, on that, I mean, do you think that you would be willing to do a short little exercise with us now, a couple of
absolutely.
minutes where we can do a little breath
Yeah.
work? Okay. Well, I'm going to let you lead. I'm going to let you take over. I'm going to get into my like relaxation. I'm just going to close my eyes. I'm going to lie down.
Amazing. So
but,
obviously bearing in mind we're going to do it seated
eyes
today, but now just using the closing of your eyes to draw your attention inwards, and just really feeling the breath now just coming in through your nose and out through your nose. And just taking a moment just to ground yourself, maybe just feeling your pelvis just seated, the seat below. Just feeling your body just kind of resting where you are in this moment. And just take a couple more breaths. And then I'm just going to invite you to just place your hand, one of them on your abdomen, and then you're going to bring the other hand just up to kind of your heart, your chest area. And just take a moment, just maybe feel the beat of your heart beneath your hand, and just connect with your body. And then just relaxing your jaw, just opening your mouth, maybe just slightly, part your teeth. You might just, if your jaw's tight, just wiggle it side to side. And then we're going to breathe in through the mouth twice, and then we're going to exhale through the mouth. This is the active breath that I was talking about of the practice. So now I'd love you, with your mouth relaxed, just inhale into the abdomen. And then bring that breath up to the high chest, expand your heart. And then exhale, let go and release through the mouth. So I'm making it a bit louder just so you can hear me, but it doesn't need to be noisy. So inhaling, expanding your abdomen. Bring that breath up, expand your heart. Exhale, release through the mouth. Inhale, expand the abdomen. Bring that breath up, expand the heart. Exhale, release through your mouth. So what you're doing is just connecting, really stirring up the energy in your abdomen, bringing that energy up. Really open your heart by expanding the heart, and just let go, release maybe anything that's happened today that you're ready to let go of, anything that's happened, maybe any conversations. And we'll just do a few more rounds of that. So just really expand your abdomen. And so what we do is we really just release on the exhale, just using the breath as like a tool to really switch off the mind. And it can sometimes take a while, but it just gives
oh my gosh,
gives you a little taster of the breath itself. So
I feel rejuvenated.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is, but I love the most. I love the expansion of the heart. Oh, I love that. That's so nice.
Yes.
That is really the,
and it's, what,
lovely.
it's that expansion of the heart, which just opens us up to what we really want in life and what we need in life. Because sometimes when we have experienced grief, and this is what I found myself, is that we can close our heart because we become scared to feel it. It can be scary to feel grief. So that's often what people will say to me before they come to a breathwork session is, oh, what if I cry? Or what if? But actually it's the most natural experience. And so often people, when they do cry, it's okay. And I've never had anyone kind of find it uncomfortable within a session. But yeah, when we open the heart, we're opening ourselves to more love, and love is so important. And I think what that's really helped me to do with the loss of my brother is just hold, there's always sadness there. And even 9 years down the line, I'm kind of still will release grief in a breathwork session, but there's such a strong element of love. And what I've learned through that journey is he's a part of me. His love will always be there. The memories are there. And
totally,
I've learned so much about life that I can use to honor him and his life. And I know he wanted me to live. That's
beautiful.
That's what he wanted for me. And so, yeah, that's the opening of the
really,
heart.
really nice.
You really pulled on something which is such an important part of the practice. In fact, it's an important part of everything that I do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I feel like, well, thank you. I agree with you. And I think what you said about your brother, I think that was really beautiful, because the one, something that has come from that really sad experience has been doing this in some ways in memory of him, and him also being part of that journey. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I was going to say that also, like with the expansion of the heart, I almost feels like when I was doing it, it felt like almost I was tapping into this like infinite amount of love that is there, but oftentimes is not, we hold that to ourselves. But actually that practice of opening up and moving into the heart center where it's so much love to give, it felt really nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, it's just incredibly important, because when we can live from that place of love, it just opens new doorways, and it opens new possibilities. Because I guess that first breathwork session that I spoke about in Ibiza, that's where my heart began to open, and through opening my heart and feeling my grief, however difficult it was, it's really helped me to explore a new way of living, from feeling completely broken to using those experiences just not to only heal myself, or it's always a work in progress, always healing, but to now use that to support others to heal through grief or any kind of trauma really that they've experienced in life.
That's amazing. That's really, really nice. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Well, we are now nearing the end of the podcast, even though I'm really enjoying this. I wish it could go on forever. But now we're reaching the Envision Air questionnaire segment. This is a fun feature of the podcast where we ask our guests to look back at their past, consider their present, and then look forward to their future. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just more a matter of reflecting. So looking back towards your past, if you could give your 15-year-old self any advice, what would it be and why?
It's interesting you mentioned this. I was thinking about this the other day, and I guess, there's a few things, but if I was to really summarize, it's just that just to remind her that her needs are just as important as everyone else's. And it's okay sometimes to say no to something if it doesn't align or if it's too tiring. That I could still, and this is all included within that, you can still be a good person if you're not pleasing everyone all of the time. And I think all of those things can really, when we're trying to please and when we don't believe that our needs are as important as everyone else, it is a sure, fast path to burnout. And yeah, that would be something that I would really.
Oh, share with your 15-year-old self. Do you know what? I think that I could have used that advice as a 15-year-old. So, I mean, I think that that's really well
Mm,
said. And I like that a lot. Good advice. I really would have, I think a lot of 15-year-olds probably would, would appreciate that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well, it saves,
yeah.
it stands you in good stead then for, it just creates more balance ultimately. And I think it's then helps us as adults to create that balance between the doing and the
Mm,
being.
love that.
Life is to do, but also to create space to be and to have stillness and to live and enjoy life as well, to be present.
Definitely. 100%. Oh, thanks, Laura. Okay. Looking to the present now, if you could seek advice with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm just going to say the first person that comes into my mind, because I really resonate with some parts of her journey, I guess, is Gabrielle Bernstein. She's a spiritual
Oh,
coach,
yes.
and I think
Yes.
it's something that I really try and bring into my work, but it's bridging that gap between, some of the spiritual universally guided practices to everyone, which is what I really aspire to do,
Hmm.
because I think sometimes the spiritual world can feel quite woo woo, quite different. And breathwork is, can be seen as a spiritual practice, but it's accessible and really doable
Mm.
for everyone. And I think she bridges that gap, not bridges the gap, but she kind
Mm.
of
Definitely.
she brings it to a lot of people, and I love that, because people can then learn how to bring more of that into their world, which I guess is what I really am aspiring to do through my work as
Well,
well. So
but it's funny you say her, Gabby, because I think that you guys have a similar energy,
mm,
actually. She has a very welcoming, warm energy and very inclusive, and but also wanting to like connect wider
yeah,
and use her kind of mission for good things. But like
mm,
I do think it's bridging, because it's like it's almost making spirituality more mainstream, if
yes,
that makes
that's
sense, or more
exactly,
accessible, like you said.
yeah,
Yeah, so I definitely think there is a bridging element to it. So I think that was really, and I think that's what you're doing, and I
yeah.
think it's a great, a beautiful mission that you're
It
on.
is, because in
So
many ways I have this very deeply spiritual side of me, but I'm also a mum with a business with 3 kids, and my life also is incredibly down to earth and normal. And
yeah,
these practices aren't daunting or scary. They actually enhance our life in so many beautiful
yeah,
ways, bringing our nervous system back into balance. And it is a
definitely.
busy world out there. We need to take care of ourselves so that we feel good and we don't burn out. And
Yeah,
it's in many ways a myth to say that someone would never feel anxiety at all, but you can, these are tools you can use for life. And so to bring them to as
mm,
many people as possible, I guess, is my my mission.
amazing. And do you teach your children? I didn't ask you this, but do you teach your children
Yeah.
about these sort of these
Yeah, I
techniques? And
do
yeah,
in my
yeah.
own way. And there was a story I shared on Instagram actually a few months back, which really resonated with a lot of people. An example would be my daughter had come through. I'm very, breathwork, obviously, as I've said, is a very feeling practice. So my daughter, I think I taught an online class, and it was quite late, but she's 12. She couldn't sleep. She came through and said, "Oh, mummy, I'm really worried about something, but I don't know what." And she sat in the chair and
Oh.
just got her to place her hands on her heart, and she took some deep breaths, as I did with you, and we really connected with where that energy was within her body, and she worked out exactly why she was worried. And 10 minutes
Wow.
later she went to bed feeling much better. And I guess this is what I say about having the tools, because it isn't about feeling good all the time, but it's like, okay, I don't feel great in the moment, what do I need? Okay, I'm going to go and take a few deep breaths, or I'm going to
Mm,
just stand with my feet on the earth, or I need a meditation. And
mm.
or some Reiki healing on myself.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and I do Reiki on the kids, and I do guided meditations with them. Not all the time, they're sometimes open to it, sometimes they're not. And, I kind of go with it. But I guess when these things are a part of your life, they naturally come into your day. And what I do
Yeah,
find is
yeah.
not all the time, it's not perfect, but if things are busy and loud in the house,
Mm,
or there's bickering going on, inevitably there is that sometimes. I find I'm able to be more of that calm in the chaos, and
wow.
yeah, not be so reactive. So it's beneficial for them in that way as well as for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow, absolutely. Okay, so all mothers and fathers out
Yeah.
there, breath work can not only be amazing for yourself, but also for your like household.
Yeah, definitely for your household. But, I guess when you're calmer, it can be relevant to make you calmer in a workplace or
Totally.
whatever.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
my natural default always used to be to worry. I was, a big worrier. So to be able to be in a different headspace has been such a blessing and a gift in my life. So, yeah. And
Amazing.
like you said, the kids pick up on
Right.
that energy as well, don't they? So,
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think that's so beautiful. Honestly, the gift that you're giving your kids now, that gift,
mm,
spirit, like, I think it is a wider sort of spiritual practice. I think that's such a beautiful gift you're going to give your kids, and it's going to stay with them. It's one of the things that I'm most thankful to my parents for teaching
oh,
is spirituality and faith. And I always tell them that, because obviously getting, extracurriculars and,
mm.
tutors and all that stuff, it lines you up well, generally speaking, in life. But it's the spiritual practice that really is, for me, that has been it's gotten me through some of the most difficult things that I've gone through.
Thank you for
So yeah,
sharing that. That's really
that's
lovely
really, really
yeah,
nice.
that's really lovely to hear. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay. Future looking, what is one goal that you would like to achieve in the next 5 years?
I want to write a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, Laura. That's amazing. And is your book, what's it going to be on? Do you want to share, or is it going to
Yeah,
be a surprise?
it's kind of very much a work in progress. Much of it is going to be a surprise, but it will be very much a book that lots of people can relate to. So it'll be based on my journey. Yeah,
That's
but
cool.
it's very much a work in progress, but that's the ultimate goal. And I've got lots of other
Love
things kind of in the pipeline, but
it.
that's the first one that came into my mind. But
Awesome. That is so cool. Well, I'm hopefully also writing a book. So maybe we should have like sessions where we like write together.
yes, that would be
So
incredible.
that we can, yeah,
Yeah.
we just like need like co-working spaces where we
And
actually write. Cause I heard it's kind of, it can be a little bit intense at times.
it's
So,
having that quiet space, I think, for a long period of time, which when you're working full time or you've got kids is a little bit of a juggle to
mm,
find, isn't it? So it's
challenging. Well,
yeah.
I'll be your lifeline when you need
Well,
it.
vice
Like, and
versa.
cool. Awesome. That
I
sounds like a
think it's
plan.
incredible what you're doing with the podcast as well. I think it's
Oh,
amazing.
thanks, Laura. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And and I so appreciate you coming on and sharing this beautiful practice that I hope that, the listeners and the viewers are going to take on board.
Mm.
And I do want to thank you for coming on. And for anyone who's interested in Laura's practice, I will be including all of her social media handles and her website. And so please do go check that out. I do know she does breathwork sessions, like she mentioned, one-on-one. She does online courses. So anywhere in the world, if you're interested, you can reach out to Laura
Yeah.
directly. And I just, again, want to thank you, Laura, so much
Oh,
for
thank you
coming
so much
on.
for having me. I mean, like I said, just, I could sit here and talk to you for ages. There's so much always to cover, but
Me
yeah, it's just
too.
really wonderful to share the practice of breathwork and just, yeah, you know, give
Oh,
the Envision Air listeners a little insight into what to expect. And of course, if anyone has any questions or anything they would love to ask, my door is always open and open to emails. And
oh,
I do have various online programs, group one-to-one programs and one-off sessions, as you say. So there's kind of something, to suit most people's needs. So
yeah, there's something for everyone.
That's it. Exactly that. So,
and I think, yeah. Well, thank you again, Laura. It's been really like a special treat, and I just feel so warm. I have this amazing energy. I'm walking away from this like feeling so full. So thank you so much for that.
I do as well. So it's been amazing to talk to you. So thank you so much, Nicole. Everything you do.
Okay.
Lots of love.
Oh, thank you.
Take care.
Lots of love.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit subscribe and check out this video here.